Okay, just a reminder for question time, particularly if we start to run out of time, if you want to document your questions on the app, I am following that as well. Okay, so our second speaker today is Arjun Dave. The title of his talk is Age-Related Increase in Locus Coeruleus Activity and Connectivity with Prefrontal Cortex During Ambiguity Processing. Thank you, Arjun.
Yeah, thank you much for the introduction, and thank you much for coming in. Today I'm going to share one of my projects related to the Locus Coeruleus in terms of aging and how it changes its connectivity with prefrontal cortex during the ambiguity processing. So to start with, can I change this slide? Oh, okay, cool. Oh, so I have no disclosure, and the current work that I will be presenting is in the press, so feel free to scan the QR code for the preprint, for the updated preprint. To start with, I'm going to tell a quick story about the emotions. So we all know that the emotions are fundamental for the social interaction. As we have seen in the conference during our time chatting with other people, we always tend to understand the emotions of the other person while we socially interact with them. But most importantly is interpreting the emotions accurately, right? Because when we meet other person, they might be feeling tired, they might be feeling something which we don't know. And especially it becomes critical to understand what they feel about the things that are happening around them. And if you predict them accurately, maybe you can find a good connections with the other person and future prospects in life as well with the other person. But especially not all emotions are equally clear and distinct. Some can be extremely ambiguous in our daily life. And to predict them accurately, it needs more attention, arousal, and definitely some understanding about the other person. And we can see them by their faces. And especially with age comes more cognitive effort. And it becomes even more trickier to understand the emotions clearly. And we try to decipher this in our project. And one of the important region which has been neglected in the social cognition aspect is the locus coeruleus. It's a very tiny structure in the brainstem, which is a home of noradrenaline. It has important function that is important for the facial recognition and encoding of the facial expression, such as also encoding salient stimuli, stress responses, and it has numerous functions in it. And how it works on the inverted U shape, where the focused, for the focused attention, it requires the moderate or tonic phasic of the locus coeruleus activity. And it has, as we know, at least the locus coeruleus people know that it has dense projection to the cortex, and especially it mostly projects to the prefrontal cortex as well. And through its top-down regulatory mechanism, it helps in resolving the conflicting information in the social encoding status as well. And it has important role in the inhibitory control. And how it connects with the prefrontal cortex is it has optimal norepinephrine in the prefrontal cortex. It sends the norepinephrine to the prefrontal cortex, and it helps, and prefrontal cortex tends to help in top-down control to the locus coeruleus. And eventually, it helps in regulating the stress, emotion, and the regulating emotions and anxiety as well, such in this case for me. And in late life, it has been shown that the locus coeruleus structure integrity is especially important, and it plays an adaptive role, and it has some important link with episodic memory as well. And regarding the functional aspect of the locus coeruleus, it has been seen that the higher locus coeruleus activity during the novel facial encoding task has been linked with resilience against cognitive decline in the late life. So that probably gives us a nice hypothesis-driven question regarding what could be the role of locus coeruleus during the higher cognitively effortful task in the future. But especially its link with the mental well-being has been very neglected or not been checked. So we try to again answer in this project. So to quickly summarize our quick questions, we wanted to question first, what is the role of locus coeruleus during encoding this ambiguous facial expression, especially in late life? So based on the previous results, we hypothesized that there might be age-related increase in the locus coeruleus activity during ambiguity processing, especially as it requires cognitively effortful tasks, in older compared to the younger subjects. And we also wanted to check whether there is any sort of connectivity between the locus coeruleus with the prefrontal cortex during the same task in late life, and whether it links with the emotional well-being or not. So to do that, we collected the data for around 150-ish subjects, and after cleaning, in the 70 MRI, we have around 75 younger subjects and 69 older subjects data analyzed in our data. So the task goes like this. The participant sees the face. They have to encode or answer or make a decision whether the face was happy or fearful. Then they rate their confidence level about the decision that they have made, whether they were sure, unsure, or very sure about the decision. And we manipulate the faces such that the faces are based or morphed across 7 distinct levels, such that the faces would be either extremely fearful, so 100% fearful, so no ambiguity in it, or 100% happy, while some of the faces could be morphed to 70% fearful, 30% happy, and 30% happy or 70% fearful or in the opposite direction. But the most important condition that we wanted to investigate was the 50-50 absolute ambiguity task, which is the absolute ambiguity which requires more cognitive effort. And for more information, feel free to scan the QR code. And we also have the self-reported mental well-being and the cognitive functions gathered in our behavioral data. And since we have a lot of behavior and cognitive measures, we decided to run a PCA, principal component analysis, which gives us the cognitive resilience index based on the cognitive behavioral data, and also the emotional resilience based on the self-reported mental well-being data. And the pipeline for the Locus Coeruleus delineation goes like this. We have the high-resolution empty scan, we have the individual scan, and then we create a template based on the individual scales. So intuitively, you can think that the individual's images are stacked upon each other. And then we try to delineate the Locus Coeruleus on the template, so not on the individual subjects, but based on the template that we created. And after a few linear registration and non-linear registration steps, we try to bring the Locus Coeruleus mask to the MNI space, because most of the functional images, as we know, are in the MNI space. But for more information, feel free to ask the question, and I'll be happy to answer. And regarding the results, first regarding the results, the behavioral results, we found that during the absolute ambiguity task, the reaction time of both younger and older subjects tends to increase, and the level of confidence tends to decrease. So as you can see on the top right image of it, you can see during the absolute ambiguity task, participants becomes more unsure about the decision. So they were not sure whether the face was happy or fearful, which makes sense. And also the reaction time tends to increase, so they take more cognitive effort to decipher the image. And we also see a very nice positivity bias in the older subjects, where older subject tends to respond to the ambiguous faces as more happy rather than fearful. Coming to the first question, we found that there was a higher Locus Coeruleus activity in the older compared to the younger subjects during absolute ambiguous facial expression task, which is the 50-50 morphed task. And we didn't find any evidence of Locus Coeruleus activity in any of the other tasks, such as the anchor images or happy or fearful images, but only in the absolute ambiguous task we found it. And more importantly, this higher Locus Coeruleus activity was linked with slower response time, and that was only in the older subjects. So that means that during the old or late life, the Locus Coeruleus activity tends to help them to decipher the more cognitively effortful task, only in older subjects, but not in young. So as you can see, the Locus Coeruleus activity in older subjects may reflect the cognitive effort. Regarding the last question, regarding the connectivity, we found that the older subjects has also higher Locus Coeruleus connectivity with the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And this was, again, very exclusive to dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and we didn't find any. We did also control studies regarding the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, insula, dorsomedial prefrontal cortex, So all the PFC regions, subregions of the PFC, and also anterior cingulate cortex and insula, and fusiform gyrus because of its involvement in faces. We didn't find any age-related differences, but only in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex we found the age differences. And again, more importantly, this was linked with mental well-being or emotional well-being in the later life. So higher the locus coeruleus DLPFC in the older subjects links to lower stress, lower anxiety, and higher emotional resilience that we did with the principal component analysis. So that means that the locus coeruleus DLPFC connectivity might be very critical in maintaining the emotional well-being in later stages of the life. So to give the highlights, we found that locus coeruleus activation in older adults, and this probably may reflect cognitive effort in the later stages of the life. And this locus coeruleus DLPFC pathway that we see can contribute to the adaptive mechanism in the late life, which could be a potential pathway for the intervention, especially as we know that DLPFC can be intervened with TMS or other measures. With that, I would like to thank the lab members, especially Professor Mariam Ziai, and co-supervisor Professor Heidi Jacobs for its help with the locus coeruleus aspects, and especially for the team members, because I didn't collect the data myself, so I used the data that my team members collected, so I'm really thankful for them. And again, thank you much for listening.
We have a minute for questions for Arjun.
Come up and ask it.
Yes, please.
Sure. Thank you very much. That was really nice. So my question is a little bit general curiosity. Can you somehow, with the locus coeruleus, tease apart this effect that you have one from its connections to, for example, the PFC, and then also its more systemic effects with the noradrenaline?
Yeah, for sure. So we know that the locus coeruleus is divided into rostral and the caudal region, so we can tease apart subregions of the locus coeruleus. So which aspects or which part links more with the locus coeruleus. So we know that the rostral part is more connected with the cortex, but the caudal regions are more connected with the cerebellum. So we can tease apart the different aspects of locus coeruleus for sure.
Okay, cool.
I have a question from the app here, and I'm obliged to say it exactly as it reads. So super cool results, dash. How do you interpret the symmetry of the locus coeruleus activation?
Yep, that's a very good question. Because in most of the literature, we have seen that the left locus coeruleus tends to be more activated or more involved in task which requires like cognitive effortful task. I'm not 100% sure about the symmetrical aspect or the different left and right symmetry. The volume of the left and the right locus coeruleus tends to be similar as per my knowledge. But the differences that we see from the left and right, very difficult question to answer. It could be because of the scanner use or multiple aspects that we don't know yet. So thank you much.
Thank you very much.
If that answers.